Have you not listened to your elders, my friend?
I've listened to the elder, but I don't listen to.
Okay, you have.
Welcome to Right Between the Eyes podcast, a KISS podcast with 3 generations of KISS fans telling you why we love it loud. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Right Between the Eyes podcast, a KISS podcast with 3 generations of KISS fans telling you why we love it loud. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Myers. Welcome to episode 60. And if you've clicked on this episode, you see the title of it. I'll explain a bit, but this is The Warning. This is their new album, Keep Me Fed. This is Nick and I doing an album review. I'll explain here in just a second. Let's get through all our social media handles. I'm going to read them here. Audioly, you won't be able to see it, but anyway, you understand. We're on Twitter at RBTE Podcast, or X, I think it's officially called. Who cares? Who knows? But we still use it. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Right Between the Eyes Podcast. You can find us on Instagram. You can email the show at rightbetweentheeyespodcast@gmail.com. Send us an email. We'll read it on the show. We love to communicate with you. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello, but if you're listening to the audio version, you can see this full video and other things that we'll be posting throughout the rest of the year. So go check us out on YouTube. And if you like and listen to the podcast, rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts or watch podcasts, and we will review and read those on the air. And primarily, a lot of people do that through iTunes, Apple Podcast. Okay, now that I fumbled that intro because it's been a hot minute, welcome to episode 60. This is just an intro into the episode. On this episode, I believe I already said it. I've done so many takes because I kept screwing things up, but we're just going to plow through this one. It is just Nick and I. I put something out on our social medias that we're firing the machine back up. And we were doing a 9 episode of the hottest KISS songs, and that's in the title. And if you look through the KISS catalogs and you find songs that are about hot, fire, heat, or whatever, there's only actually 9. You got to look a little bit closer to find the 9th one. But that'll be for the next episode, we promise. At the last minute, Nick was unable to do this episode. And Nikko and I have been talking about The Warning on the podcast for a little bit, at least on episode 59 with Rick Shue. And I started getting Nikko into that little, warning fever, if you will. And he became a really big fan really fast. And you'll hear the story of how he and I became fans. Well, the album has just been out. At the time of this recording, it might be the second week, third week. I want to say it might have been the 28th. I know I do say it correctly in the episode. So the album has just been out, and it's something that Nikko has been playing constantly, and I've been playing quite a bit. So we thought about doing our KISS 9 episode to get us back into doing KISS stuff. And Nikko's like, what if we just talk about The Warning? We'll give ourselves a little bit of a placeholder. And Nick's schedule has been really kind of crazy. Nikko's as well. So that's why there's been this lull in the podcast. I had started filming stuff for a KISS collection challenge that I got asked to do 2 months ago from Rick and from Xander. And it just fell through the cracks. My parents are getting ready to move into a new house, so helping them move and painting and all that stuff has really slowed my end down for the podcast. And then times where I really wanted to do something, Nick and Nikko were busy. So I started going, I need to start utilizing our YouTube channel. And then I'll say it at the end of the episode, but I'm going to kind of promote it here. And if I'm smart enough when I'm editing this, I'll put up the image here and scroll at the bottom. I'm actually going to be starting a new podcast because I still want to keep doing this, but I don't want to do a whole lot without Nick and Nikko because it is the 3 of us. It's the band of brothers. Excuse me. And sure, from time to time, we'll have Xander and Rick and Brant and, the whole cast of characters, the Rosemont crew, if you will. But the core of the show, I want it to remain Nick and Nikko and myself, and doing little one-offs where it's not the primary is something that you'll still see me do, where it's a collection video or it's something like that as a YouTube placeholder, but not an official episode that'll go out on audio and video. And then I started thinking, I really miss doing some podcasting, just the different music. Like this episode would work really well on what I'm getting ready to tell you about as I'm taking a little bit of RBTE time here. So I'm starting a new podcast that's going to start on YouTube first, and I will probably start porting it into our podcast network, the RBTE podcast network, that'll be in the audio stream as well. So don't be surprised in your RBTE if you start seeing this. So as I'm letting it go here too long, leaving a big pregnant pause, bearing the lead, the new show is going to be called Rogue Record Music. I say it in the episode. I'll just say it here really quick in case I didn't say it, because we recorded a couple days ago. But I used to have a YouTube channel. You can still find it on YouTube, called Rob's Rogues. And I reviewed action figures. You can see some up around here, maybe at the top part of the shelf. Superhero stuff. And I did that for 7-8 years, just reviewing action figures, talking about comic book movies. So I like the whole Rogue thing. So to kind of keep the Rogue aspect, I like the Rogue record music kind of went there. So the podcast is going to be around other bands and things that I like. Now, as I'm kind of showing, I'm going to show a couple here. So if you can't see it on the audio version, I'll tell you. So 2 albums I bought, so I've got my notes up here. Let's get those out of the way. Is Mr. Big. This just came out, and then Bon Jovi. I think we will probably talk about Bon Jovi on this show since we've done a Bon Jovi episode. But it's not saying that Nick and Nikko, we won't fly over to Rogue Record Music to have a channel that maybe it starts out as mine. It just becomes something that Nick, Nikko, and I do. We'll keep the Kiss stuff on the Kiss stuff and the other music stuff on Rogue Record Music. But it'll be a collection video. I have some vinyl back here, going through my vinyl collection, stuff that I have as a kid. I have cassettes and CDs, so do a whole bunch of other music stuff and bring some of my other podcasting friends on here that I know that love and listen to other music other than Kiss. So that's what Rogue Record Music is. The YouTube channel is already up. I've got the link scrolling down here, and it's in the show notes if you're listening to the audio version. There are no episodes yet, but I'm hoping this weekend I'm going to put one up, and it is going to be, the 9 is always a thing, the 9 albums that got me through high school. My 9 favorite albums from 1989 to 1993. That span of 4 years, the 9, I'm going to start with 10 and take one away. The 9 albums that made me who I am. And am I still a fan of those albums, and where do they rank? And we'll do all that stuff that we normally do on this channel, but on Rogue Record Music. So go check that out. At least like and subscribe to it, because the episodes will start coming out very, very soon. Okay, now that I've taken RBTE time to plug myself shamelessly, and probably Nick and Nikko as well, this is Nikko and I going through our experience of becoming a Warning fan and what we think of their brand new album and the 3 sisters from Monterrey, Mexico, Central Mexico. This is RBTE, and we're going to take a break from Kiss like we've done for a little bit, but we are coming back strong. Stay tuned, Kiss fans. But if you don't know who the Warning is, shame on you. Maybe this will be something that you can put into your collection. I tell you, you'll be very happy that you did. Here we go. RBTE, The Warning in 3, 2, 1. Hey folks, it's us. It's Nick and Nikko, Right Between the Eyes podcast. The intro you heard I recorded later after this part that I haven't done yet, but Nikko just asked me, and you can see that it's just the 2 of us, so it's going to be a little bit more of a satellite show just to kind of get us back into it, just like everybody else. It's hot, it's crazy, which goes into another podcast later that we'll do, but we're put down the back burner. But family vacations and just everything. But Nikko had said at the last minute that your dad couldn't do this one. You were like,
Unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately. So sorry, Nick. But you and I have been talking about this other band. So if you've clicked on this episode, you know what this is. And I'm like, this might be a good opportunity to talk about this. But you had asked before we hit record if there was any other Kiss news. Paul, I think recently there's a video on YouTube where Paul has taken somebody through the warehouse, the Kiss warehouse, which looks cool.
Sure.
And I think he's been showing off like guitars and different things. I haven't seen that yet. Gene is doing a smattering of dates in the US for was the Rock and Brews
Hmm.
a restaurant that he and Paul have. So he's done a couple US shows, but I think the latter part of the summer, the Gene Simmons solo band will have solo shows in the UK and stuff like that for some of the major festivals. Um, Tommy's been really quiet. Ace is doing some shows.
Yeah,
Like
he's
the
kicking,
big
man.
news is he broke up with his fiance or girlfriend. That's got more news than what his album. We haven't talked about 10,000 volts. I'm going to ask you really quick because this is probably going to be the most Kiss part of this podcast. Have you listened to 10,000 volts? Have you heard any of it?
You know, I haven't, and I feel bad that I haven't. I need to because I hear it's actually pretty good. I do like wasn't the single was 10,000
10,000
volts as
volts.
well,
Yep.
right? That song I listened to, I actually thought that song was pretty good. I know my dad did too. But no, I haven't gotten around to that album yet. I've been in an interesting spot with Kiss still. I
Same.
feel like I'm waiting for the thing to bring the three of us like really full circle again. Not that there's anything wrong. Not that I
No.
dislike the band. They're my favorite band of all time. It's why I do the show. It's why we're friends, brother. Well, we're friends for a lot of reasons, but the
Right.
inception was Kiss. I also find it crazy that like Gene hasn't like stopped.
Yeah.
Like they did the last show and he's touring again. I'm like, okay, wow, he's really just God bless him, man. When he's got the time, when he's still got the health, I guess keep playing. But that I'm shocked that he's doing all these shows this year.
I thought it
Oh,
would
but
have
no,
been
I
the other
haven't
way.
gotten around. Yeah, right. I thought it would have been Stanley or somebody else, right? So Gene likes his money though. He likes
He
keeping
does.
it. He likes keeping it coming in. But yeah, outside Ace's out, I have not listened to Ace's album. Have you?
Yeah, I did a show with Brant.
That's right. You guys did a show about
Yeah,
it.
and Xander. I think we had done one shortly after the release of that. And I think that was the last time I listened to that album. I think I listened to it that whole week leading up to it. And I haven't gone back, I think on the show I was the one that was a little underwhelmed by it, but I was still very positive.
Sure.
I was really surprised the product that Ace had put out. And he has like 19 million variants. If you're a vinyl collector, holy crap, there are so many different
Really?
yeah, I might be exaggerating, but I think there's close to 100 variants for the album. I don't know what the exact numbers could be
Wow.
50, 60, something like that, but I thought somebody had said he's close to 100. Just different
And like just how the vinyl looks, or
just
is
how
he
the
playing
vinyl
around?
looks.
Wow.
There's a couple
Wow.
different, like there's a lenticular cover on one. I think that was the CD. Um, Almost like the shirt that you're wearing, it has Ace's lightning bolt
Oh
on it
yeah.
for one.
If you can see.
You can see that. I think I'm in the same spot with you, and I was talking to the wife about it. Like she goes, "Oh, you guys are getting back to the podcast." I said, "It's funny. We have done less Kiss-oriented podcasts this year coming out of them um, retiring from the road." And I said,
Hmm.
I don't know. Fatigue is the wrong word. I think if you do anything, um, if you eat the same food over and over again, you listen to the same music over and over again, after a while, you can kind of go, I need a break for a moment. I think because we were on this end of the road thing, there was always so much to talk about. We had shows constantly. We were doing all of this stuff. I
Hmm.
think for a minute, I was like, there was a bunch of other bands and things that I want to listen to. I went and saw Seven Dust. So I was in a big
Yeah.
Seven Dust thing. And then for me, Dream Theater reunited with their drummer. So, and then the band that we're going to talk about today, uh, Mr. Big for me. There's just been a lot of different things that have taken my focus. And like you said, I'm waiting for that Kiss thing to go. Okay, we're going to get back into it. I think probably by the next podcast, we will get back into
Oh
Kiss
yeah.
World. But I think this kind of goes with the summer that you and I were talking about off mic. It's been so crazy busy. We've been from point A to point B, and I just haven't sat down and go, oh, I'm going to play rock and roll over just
Yeah.
because I want to hear it. It's like I've spent less time in this house to go. I'm in the car. Like I hear more Kiss at work than I do in my own house. And I hear
Mm.
about 5 Kiss songs every week.
That's thank you for sharing that. That's cool. And I'm glad you relate to it too, just in terms of everything about them. And I think too, I think sometimes time is an important thing, and I actually think we needed this time maybe away from Kiss, or maybe even need a little bit more time, because then when you come back to it, like you said, it all felt fresh. We were doing the end of the road thing forever. We saw them, and then they were done in terms of touring
Mhm.
the as a live rock and roll act. So it was like, oh, like I feel like we had this urge to kind of stop too, but like a subconscious urge to be like, okay, well, Kiss stopped. So let's now my brain can listen to other things. Now, like you said, getting into a lot of other things, including the group we're about to talk about today, but we're going to come back to Kiss. We are. I think we just needed, we're not like Gene Simmons who couldn't stop. He just keeps going, right? We're
Right.
not like you said, sometimes when you just do something over and over, especially something that you love, you want to give it some time, romanticize it a bit, so that when it comes back, it's you know, the strongest thing ever. And we also like you said had so many releases for the couple years there. We were talking about, you know, we were in a nice rotation of things we were talking about. Then we were appearing on other shows, and the live shows started. A lot of the live stuff from Off the Soundboard was coming out, etc. So like there were like these checkpoints isn't the word, but that's the word that comes to me. Like these checkpoints of things we were always talking about, and we had to fill in time until the thing. And now it's like, oh wow, we're kind of now it's like really freestyling whatever we want to talk about with Kiss. And I think we're still figuring that out. And I'm excited when that starts. But even more excited at this moment in time about warning our audience about something, giving them a healthy warning of a healthy warning of an obsession. I'm sure after you listen to this episode.
Well, we're just trying to keep them fed.
We're just trying to keep them fed. You're right. And, you know, we won't apologize for it. And, you know, how many other songs? You won't be sick after, you're going to want more.
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty good, right? I'm about 4 or 5 in, right?
And this isn't a hell that you're going to call a dream either.
I love there's another one.
We're bearing the lead. We are talking about the warning, and I want to read as professional as I can be with my podcasting voice. I'm going to read from Wikipedia just like everybody else does. The Warning is an American. See, we've been stuck on Kiss for so long. The Warning is a Mexican rock band from Monterrey, if I'm saying that in my fluent English accent.
I believe so. Beautiful.
Formed in 2013. That's crazy. 2013 by three sisters, Danielle, Alejandra, and Paulina, guitar, bass, and drums, respectively. They released 4 studio albums, 2 EPs, and 15. That's crazy. 15 music videos.
It's crazy.
Their most recent studio album, Keep Me Fed, was released on June 28th, 2024. So we are on the heels. This album has only been out a few weeks. Like we normally do is, you know, figure out like, well, where did you come into the mix on this? And I know I'll tell you where I discovered the band.
Yeah. How did you? I don't think I've ever asked you, because I'll just say mine quickly. Everybody, it was from Rob here. One of the greatest, maybe the greatest musical recommendation he's given me so far in our friendship, because this ever since. When was that show you told us to listen to? Was that show with Rick, or
that show with Rick? Yeah,
that was show with Rick. So man, since then I have not stopped. So that's mine. Is Rob brought it up on a show. I said, let me check this band out, and I have never looked back. I am so much more interested. How did you get into them?
I just turned 50 this year, so I'm trying not to sound like creepy old man when I say
You're not.
So, you know, like as you're watching things on YouTube or whatever, it starts building an algorithm just like everything else.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I was seeing people post pictures of the girls with the captions like, "Oh, this chick is hot. I wonder if she can really play." So like scrolling.
Oh, sure, something like that. Yeah,
something like that. I don't know who this band is or whatever. I'm like, I don't know that. Judging a book by its covers, we think being comic book fans, as long as we have been music fans, looking at a CD or an album or a comic book or movie and going, that's probably going to be trash, just because of either marketing or what your preconceived notions might be because of it. So I think I misjudged it, and I'm thinking, well, I'm a dude. I'm not really into what the typical chicks have to sing about, Yeah, I'm all good for the sucker romantic, country song sung by female lead. I don't mean that bad by at all, but I'm a rocker. There's very few female rockers. You can go Lita Ford or the Evanescences and stuff like that, but they're generally flanked by other male musicians, and that's neither here nor there. That's just what that is. So I think like sometimes as you start scrolling through Facebook and if you're clicking on things, it starts going, oh, hey, you probably want to see more of this thing. So I was in going through a rabbit hole one night on YouTube and I kept seeing like the little reels at the bottom. And it was Allie, her little spot. It was just her and her, black like onesie type thing. And it says, oh my gosh, she can really play bass. Was the tag.
You know what's funny? And then I'll let you finish. I'm sorry, but you just brought up a point I was thinking of. And I'm not going to do the thing where I'm like, Rob told me about this group and I realized I had seen them before. No. I'm not even about to be fake like that. It's funny though, because I could have sworn I've seen a clip of Ale as well in the past. Because when I started watching live performances, not the other chick, I just kept going, I think I've seen, and I don't know if it's because I also, it had to be because of YouTube or TikTok. Something. Or like Twitter, like the music, because I'm a big Hayley Williams fan, so like whenever I start sharing her stuff, a lot of female rock stuff, and there's a lot of female artists I like, but not necessarily all rock in a bunch of different genres. So I feel like maybe one day, there's an Italian group too. I'm drawing a blank on the name too that I was into for like a little bit. They were pretty popular. They performed at the VMAs with The Warning, which I didn't know that either. I went back and watched some videos. So I'm pretty sure like Ale must be pretty popular, I think, amongst the fans. Because I feel like even now, like it's funny how sensitive the Twitter algorithm is.
Right.
I started liking and tweeting stuff about the album drop, and I'm not kidding. My feed is usually a lot of comic book stuff or a lot of film stuff with some Chicago Cubs in there. I'm not kidding. Now it's probably like 75% The Warning right now, which is good. I'm not complaining. But anyway, continue. So I feel like some of those videos of like them performing, especially Ale, I feel like are really prominent. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I think it's from the song Z, where she's got that, melodic bass riff. And the spot that I'm thinking of is that picture. She's got like the black gloves on or whatever.
Dude,
and she's playing that riff. And it was one of those like, I'm afraid to click on this. Not that I think anything was going to happen to the computer, but I'm like, what am I going to get myself into where I'm going to be like, okay, it's some Teen Choice Award like thing. Like
always a risk. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, okay, now I've got Kid Pop on my thing, and hearing her tone, I was like, oh, holy crap. Like she's really good. She's playing a 5-string. And then when Danny started singing,
oh man,
I was like, holy. So then I felt like, oh crap, I like these 3 girls. I can't tell any of my dude friends that I like a chick rock band. So a bass player that I play with, we were playing and he says, I have a guilty pleasure. And I said, shut up right now if you're talking about The Warning. And he's like, I know, right? So
awesome.
And he goes, they're catching like fire. So once I started going, okay, I'm really going to give, rather than give some song clips, he's like, go check out Choke, the music video. He's like, he goes, if you watch Choke, he's like, that's going to change everything for you. And that music video just absolutely blew me away. So trying to find a time on the podcast to talk to you about it, like, hey, I think you need to check out this band. But I'm like,
I
didn't know what you were going to think about. And it just happened to open up with Rick's podcast that I was like, okay, I'm just going to say it, that I had been listening to it for probably about 3 or 4 months. And I kept going like the repeat level on the first album that I came in contact with, it was Error.
Oh, it's a good one.
Was just certain songs were just over and over and over again. I listened like the first 4 or 5 songs just in repeat. And once I found Z on the album, I was like, that's that bass line that Allie is playing on that very first clip that I
Yeah.
saw about 6 months ago, and everything just kind of clicked. It's funny listening to an album that you either listen to like, okay, here's this popular song and here's this song, and sometimes in this digital day and age to like put a needle down and listen to something from front to back is sometimes very rare. So I had to tell myself, just I'm at work, let the whole entire Spotify thing,
Let it play.
let it play through. And then I was like, okay, I'm I'm in. I'm totally sold.
Man. Oh, I love hearing that. That's so cool. For me, it was simple. You said listen to him. I said yes, sir. You said listen to. I think Hell You Call a Dream was like just. I think they just that was just a single that was released. So
Yeah.
I listened to that and was hooked. And then I remembered you saying Choke. I listened to both of those. Then I got hooked on the songs from Keep Me Fed that were out. And there was like four. That there was already four out. So I
Mhm.
listened to those. Then I went back and listened to all of Error. And that album is great as well. So
Yeah.
we might have to talk about that at some point. But then I remember going to YouTube because then I like seeing the live performances.
Yeah.
And I searched them on YouTube. I was just like the Warning Live. And the first thing that came up was the live performance of Evolve from the
MTV,
VM. Have you seen
VMA.
that one? And that performance, I was like, dude, I was like jaw on the floor because of the stage presence, the sound, the energy, all three of them. And I'm like, oh, this band is not only good on the record, they are live. And it's cool to kind of, when we start talking about the album, I watched another interview with them with the same, drawing a blank on the name, the same person that did the interview of the Last Kiss show.
Oh, Allison
Is it
Hagendorf.
okay? It was, I was gonna
Okay.
say Allison. She did a great interview with them, and the Warning, all three of them shared that when they went to create this album, they did share they were thinking of how will the song sound live. So can they record songs that will translate to the live show? I think that's a very cool way to do it, especially
Mhm.
in rock and roll. So yeah, so then I was hooked from there, and I watched a ton of performances, and then rode that just all of it on repeat, all of it on repeat, and then wrote it right into the album released last weekend. And was very satisfied to plug another song.
Very satisfied. You know, I still feel like that. Not a guilty pleasure. I'm very proud to say I'm a Warning fan, but I feel like the rest of the country and rest of the world are slowly starting to pick up on who I'm hearing more and more people talk about it. Like I'm waiting for this explosion to happen for them. And I feel like it kind of has, but it hasn't at the same moment.
It's one of those where I've seen this with a lot of groups. Have you ever heard of the group? I think we've talked about them before with you, not on a show, but the Struts.
Yeah.
So I had me and my father, my dad. I don't know why I said both. My dad. Um, we got into the Struts the way I am into the Warning right now. But a few years ago, I'm talking like 2018, 2019. They were opening up for the Foo Fighters in
That's
2018. So
right.
we saw them open up, then I saw them at Riot Fest, and we saw them on their own headlining show at the House of Blues later that year, or maybe the next year, 2019. Anyway, um, and it felt similar. Oh, all of a sudden they're on this verge, right, to explode. And they actually were the closing act of the Victoria's Secret fashion show.
Oh, that's right.
And I was like, oh man, they're about to pop. Like they're about to pop off. They're about to actually be known in like on a semi-mainstream level. And then they never really did.
Yeah, I felt like they
This
were.
group, yeah, wait, you go ahead.
No,
They
I
were
felt
like
like
right
they were on
there.
the verge. Like even Def Leppard was like, these guys are the
Yeah.
real deal. I think they took him out on a brief run, and I was just
Hmm.
waiting for him. You were talking about him. I listened to the album, then it was just kind of like they just fiddled out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
And I don't know if it's because like, because then like the next album they came out with, I didn't love. And then I'll be honest, I haven't listened to their newer one, like the most recent one. Um, So part of me feels like, oh, because they didn't pop, I kind of fell with them too. But I feel like every now and then there's a couple of these acts that like, especially in this rock and roll world, that like get right there. So for them, for the warning, I hope it happens and I hope it sustains a bit. They are very, obviously they're extraordinary musicians, but I also think too the whole three sister thing is gonna be very interesting, like when people find that out. So um they have something this year. They're doing something with MTV. They're like one of the, I don't know what it's called, but they're like a featured artist for either this month or this year. I don't know what that means because I don't know what MTV means anymore.
I don't know what is this
No
thing
disrespect.
that you're talking
Yeah.
about that used to be pretty cool.
Yeah, like no disrespect. I know they still do the VMAs and everything, but like I don't know what it means to be like an MTV featured artist anymore. I assume it means something fantastic because they're excited about it. But we'll see what that turns into. I'm hoping they pop off, and I'm looking to see a freaking live show. So I hope they pop off enough where I'm seeing them somewhere pretty cool. But I feel like that there's been just once again, I said my whole Twitter feed, and then we'll get into the album. I know. They've been doing a lot of like interviews and stuff, like web stuff too. Like even some of like the Truth or Drink, like some that are like a bit more like you'll see a lot of your, let's call them A-list talent, actors, artists do some of these types of YouTube social media things. So
Like the hot wing challenge to promote
yeah. Oh man, I hope they're on there. That would be fun if all three of them were on there. Yeah. So like when you start seeing them do those things, it's like, okay, they're in some sort of range, right? So I'm hoping that keeps going. And I think 6 Feet Deep is the single that they're pushing right now. So hopefully that song kind of pops a little bit.
And they're great at their social media, which I've been sucking at our social media lately. And they're taking moments to do. Al will have a little feature, then Danny, and then Al will. They'll do a behind the scenes of them doing whatever it is just to keep something out there. Maybe if it's not every day, but at least twice a week, there's something that they're doing on one of their different platforms.
Speaking of that, you brought up a great point, and you're right, really showcasing each one of them, which I think is fantastic. Because you're a drummer, I assume I just saw this information the other day. Is Drumeo like a drummer?
Yeah.
Thing?
Yes.
Didn't she win Drummer of the Year last year?
I think so. I want to say that
she won like recently because I remember when I was diving into the group, it's like, that she won the Drummer of the Year. I don't know if it was 2022 or 2023, but that's cool. And dude, they've been a band since 2013, and like they're like younger than me. So I think they credit them when they were like kids, which is incredible. I think they were on like America's Got Talent or something once too, or something like that when they were kids. Because it says Ale joined the band when she was like 8 or 9,
and the bass is like 12 times,
and the bass is huge. Because I think Danny's the oldest, and she's like 24. She's young,
yeah,
and she's the oldest. I'm like, oh my god, they're this good, and they're still like. Imagine where they're going to be. Sorry, we're just talking about them holistically as the band. We'll get into the album. Don't worry.
But I think the thing that really broke them that I remember seeing, I think I even said this on the podcast with Rick, is that they had done a cover of Enter Sandman when they were still very young.
Yes.
Danny still was brunette. She hadn't dyed her hair blonde. And I remember going, holy crap, these girls sound really good. You could tell that they still sounded young, but it wasn't like one of those. And I was amazed at the quality of the video in their little rehearsal studio. And I thought, oh, that's pretty good. And then what seemed like 5 years, I know it wasn't. It was probably only a couple. By the time that I discovered them, I'm going, like they remind me of something. And then in some interview, they talked about their breakout moment was being Enter Sandman. And I was like, oh, holy crap. I remember sharing that with a couple buddies, like, check these girls out playing Enter Sandman.
They're
playing
thrashing. Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah, man.
Pal can play better than Lars right now, or whatever.
Man, talk about a drummer. We'll get into it. She's hell of a drummer. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna talk about that soon. Yeah.
Well, let's just get into it. So
Yeah.
I ended up finding this on CD, and we were talking beforehand that I wanted to pre-order it, and there was other things that I'd pre-ordered. I bought a bunch of drum gear recently, and I'm like, okay, I'll do the whole Spotify thing, or we've got, Apple Music. So that's how I was listening to stuff for a while, but I'm a big physical media. Like you can't take away my air if I've got the real thing.
You
So
can't. Heck yeah.
but I never pre-ordered it, and we were talking like, oh, there was this, red vinyl that looked pretty cool, but I thought I'll just find it in a record store, and I got my copy at Walmart of all places. It was sitting right there the week the album came out, and didn't have the CD player in the car anymore because they don't have those. So I
They don't
listened
have
to
those
it
anymore,
streaming on the way
unfortunately.
home, got home and put it in an actual stereo and gave it a couple spins, and I was just really because it's one of those things like you were talking about the stretch. You get into an album and you're like, okay, this is really good. I was not trepidatious, like the bar was set pretty high for me because I'd listened to the Error so much that I wanted this to be good. And the song that, because on that VMA thing that you were watching, they had played more, at least
They
six
played
months
more. Yeah, they played more
before the
too.
album had come out. And I remember thinking, well, what is this on? Is this on one of their EPs? Is it an English track on their Spanish album or whatever? And to realize it took a few months to go, oh, I think this is a new song that they were just throwing out there. Then they released Sick, and then I think Hell You Call a Dream they were playing before Sick. And as they were starting the album cycle, they put it up and let the fans vote which of the two songs they wanted to
Mm,
release. And the populace went with Sick. And I remember going, oh, Hell You Call a Dream is so good. I think I wore out a grainy YouTube I shouldn't say grainy, but a poor quality audio version of Hell You Call a Dream. And I think they actually released a live version of Hell You Call a Dream before the official studio album track came out. So if you
is
like,
there one?
yeah, it's like from the Pepsi Center
Oh,
something or
yeah.
whatever.
Wait, I've seen that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good one. It's a good performance too. Um, that's cool, man. Yeah, I was the same way. I was just like chomping at the bits. I did get a shirt. I'm wearing the shirt right now. I held off on the vinyl, and I did just look. The red one is gone. It's okay. The regular one's still there if anyone wants it. I'm talking to myself. We'll see. But yeah, it's I think the lead up's been fun. I will say what was interesting. What I want to ask you real fast before we talk about the whole album. I was very interesting that they had like 6 of the 12 out
Hmm.
before the album dropped because I forgot in what order, but I know for the last since you told me about them, I've been able to listen to Sick, Hell You Call a Dream, Automatic Soon, Automatic Sun, QMQ is what I'm gonna call it because I don't want to
Butcher.
try to say it in Spanish and butcher it. And then I think there was one or two more.
So
So
I'm going through they released Sick. I want to say Queso Mas. That's probably, I'm butchering that.
yeah,
More.
more was the
um
other one.
Hell You Call a Dream and Automatic Sun. So yeah, they had, and it's always so interesting like when you get the hold of an album and you look at the track listing. I like it that they weren't releasing tracks one, two, three, four. You know,
Yeah.
there's the track orders like they released the last song on the album, the 10th, the what is it, the 5th, the 4th, uh, and the second before the album drops. And it looks like 6 Feet Under is the newest song that's getting pushed right now at the moment. So back in the days of you release a video on that MTV thing, whatever that used to be,
Yeah, whatever it was.
3 months would go by, then you would release maybe another single. And if that does well, you were usually guaranteed, if you're a really popular, like a band, like a Def Leppard, a Bon Jovi, you might get 3 or 4 videos on MTV and do really well. If you get 5 or 6 and they're still charting on Dial MTV and you're, the top video on Headbangers Ball, to get 5 videos out from an album is friggin' fantastic. The fact that The Warning has released 6 songs before the album came out and have full music videos, it's just
Yeah.
a different day and age that they're pushing the album that hard and they haven't even hit stage. and they toured so much for the era. And I thought, well, they're going to take some time off. They were recording that whole entire time. They were on tour recording and writing. This is unbelievable.
I was gonna say too, in the kind of just checking about the vinyl real fast, they do have US dates in the fall, but they're nowhere near Chicago, which hurts my soul so bad. But I think they're near your, we'll talk about this later because I don't know. Is this a group where I might have to travel. I might have to travel. I might have to do it.
Well,
and I'll be proud to do it.
Yeah, I think that's good when you can get excited about a band. And even going back a year where Gene Simmons says rock is dead, and we had a show of like who are gonna be the bands that are going to be carrying the torch. We were talking about Wolfie, and I feel like Wolfie is in this weird spot. Like his second album is out, and it's like not sure what he's doing. Alex has just sold off a bunch of stuff, and Bon Jovi is flirted in there somewhere. We got to talk about the doc at some point.
We do.
But I feel like the warning has come out, and they have just stayed very constant, very relevant, and they're just constantly drawing more and more people behind their wake. And I think it's going to be interesting what the end of the year is going to look like for this band. I'm proud to be excited to go. Maybe I'm gonna have to go drive and try to find a.
I'm gonna have to go see the warning.
Well, let's talk about the album.
Yes, please.
So what we normally like to do is let's just talk about the cover. Of all the things that I like about this band, I wasn't jumping up and down about the album title. I was just like, it fits really well into one of the songs, but I was just like, I don't know. I didn't know what I like. The era just sounded so cool and mysterious, and that cover was trippy. And this, I'm kind of looking at it, kind of fits into one of their music videos a little bit, but it almost reminds me of a throwback to like a 70s classic album cover for some reason. It doesn't seem modern. It seems more of a time of an era, and I don't know exactly what that is.
I love that you brought that up at the end. Yeah, there's something very retro. There's something old feeling about it, but in a really good way. And I'll tell you what, I wasn't really keen on the album name either. I do dig the cover, and I'll tell you what, after listening to it, I dig the name way more and the cover way more because Rob, I think the name is supposed to be a reflection of what we're feeling, Rob, because this cover is so appropriate because they fed us, Rob, with 12 fine dining, 5-star restaurant level rock songs here to where I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, well, they're keeping me fed here with rock music for, I think the rest of my damn life, or at least the foreseeable future.
I even went into a Mexican restaurant and the waiter spoke no English, and I was completely satisfied with my meal. Like
completely satisfied.
To listen to something that is not in our native tongue. In some artists, I'd be like, that's a skip. Or they do a Spanish version of the song that's already on the album. Like, I don't need to listen to it. I'll just listen to the English version. I don't know what is being said, but I'm captivated. Like seeing the video, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I don't know if that's what the lyrics are about, but the instrumentation and playing, I'm like, they could be complete gibberish. And somebody could say, Rob, they're not really saying anything. It's all gibberish. I don't care. The music is that good.
The music is that good. I'm glad you brought that up because when we get to that song, there's a lot I have to say about that song and why I like it so much.
All right. Well, let's just go on. So I'm going to try and bounce back and forth between iTunes, which my only gripe, and somebody's probably going to boo me for this. I love how pretty the font looks, but at a quick glance, I want to go, okay, what does that say? Everything's all
the cursive.
All the cursive.
Tough to read.
My wife has beautiful cursive, but I go, I'm a simple guy. Can you just put it in a text that I can read in 30 seconds?
Simple, man. With you.
I'm simple. So 6 feet. I about said 6 feet under. 6 feet deep starts the album off. I would have thought for sure it would have been Hell You Call a Dream, just from listening to the tracks that we got before, or Sick, or even more. But I liked hearing something that I wasn't familiar with to start the album off, because I
It's a great
think
point.
when you get like an Unholy that starts off Revenge and you've been hearing that for 4 months before the album comes out, that first spin, I'm like, okay, I've heard Unholy 100 times. Let's get to track. The track that I don't know, I was glad that the first track off of an album that I haven't heard before is something that I was not familiar with. So, what are your thoughts on 6 Feet Deep?
It's so funny you bring up Hell You Call a Dream. Just listening to it isolated feels like an opener. Which is cool, right? It's no good nor bad. It's cool. But I will say, man, I think 6 feet deep is like a perfect tone setter for this album. It's so good. I see you smiling. It's
Yeah.
like it just comes in hard. And then, I mean, the instruments and the drum fills right when the verse
Mm.
starts, man. I mean, you being a drummer probably loved hearing those, especially. So, like, yeah, it's a song that, like, it because the verse is like a bit quiet at the beginning, but then it hits, got a great chorus. I think this is an excellent album opener. I think this would be a great live show opener as well if they came out to this song. I think it
Hmm.
would really work too. Love the chorus. I love Danny's voice, man.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of her voice and all she's able to do with it. And so I think this album starts off in epic fashion. I think the riffs are great, the drums are great, the chorus is great. Heck of an opener song. And I'm glad this is a song that they're trying to promote out there now because I think in terms of like nice, hard rock, it's really strong.
Yeah. I, I don't want to rinse, lather, repeat exactly what you said, but it's so refreshing now in this day and age of going like all the bands that we're listening have been listening to for so long are in their 60s or 70s or whatever, or they're midway through their career and people aren't putting out albums, or they're like, well, we're content being a legacy act. We're not going to do something new. So to hear something new and fresh that feels very relevant but is very reminiscent of what I grew up with, and the girls grew up playing rock band.
Yeah, that's so sick too. That was pretty relatable for me too, because that was a game I played at a young age. And when a lot of my love of rock and roll started much with everything that my dad was giving me, but like just playing that game and learning songs like oh man, too many. We talked about a ton on the show with Rick. You know what I mean? Just like these some of them are really popular 70s, 80s rock songs. Some of them were like really obscure ones that I would go find. But so the fact that like that is what made them eventually into this incredible trio is really cool.
Yeah. And I think that's how they're staying very relatable to their audience. It's something familiar, and they're not doing it like, okay, we've got to sound like something that we didn't grow up with. In their interviews, they very much grew up with these songs through a video game and then based what they're doing off of their love for these songs. And it 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 really encapsulates in this opening where I feel like this is something I'm going to probably say this a lot on this episode. This feels like something that I've heard before that I've never heard. It's that
Yeah.
it's that familiar sounding where you go, rock's not dead. It's here, and it's not something that's from the it's very much of today, but it has that connective tissue to something that your parents or your uncle or whoever that person is that may have introduced you to rock and roll, but you can still go, yes, this is something for me.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Sick. So this was the first official song that was released, even though more was ahead as you're talking. Okay, we have a new album. This is the song, and I had said earlier, Hell You Call a Dream and a Sick were the two that they were letting the fans decide. So this was something where I was kind of like, this is a little different from the Error album, where this
Mm.
wouldn't fit on Error, but it is still very much them. And it almost has like a punk attitude towards it. And then it really brings it down almost into an AC/DC vibe a couple times through the song. And they're just Danny's guitar playing. I think with every song that they're writing and she's singing, not her playing with sloppy before, but she is really growing into becoming a great guitar player
Yeah.
in and of her own right, and a really solid vocalist.
Amen.
Sick.
Yeah. This sick is sick. I like it. They actually just played the song on Kimmel too, which was
Yes.
awesome. They were on Kimmel Thursday night, which is big for them too. So I think that's really, really cool. Um, the thing I like about you kind of said it, I don't want to repeat everything you said, but it's so funny you bring up it kind of had a different feel and a different sound because the verse, and what I'm about to say, I mean as a compliment, in the first verse of this song, it does sound, if I close my eyes, I said, oh, that sounds a little bit like Haley Williams. But
Mm.
I like that. And they've credited, her and I mean really the whole group as an influence too. I've seen that recently. So this one where I'm like, I hear a little bit of the Aramore in there. I do hear it in there, and they're one of my favorite bands too. So I mean that as a compliment. So the verse sounds like that. And then you're right, it kind of goes right back into that classic harder rock feel. And I like how this song, I, I do like how it gets to the chorus, right? It really has this nice forward progression. And I'm a sucker for the just sick, bam. And then it just goes. And I love how the last one is like a quiet one. Obviously, I wasn't going to scream for the other ones, but I like how that last one just makes me feel sick. So you're right. This is where some of the guitar riffs even sound cooler and a little bit more complex. So vocally and guitar wise, I feel like this is a really nice evolution for Danny as well. Kind of what
Yeah.
you were saying earlier.
Yeah. Just, and not to be, on the nose. It's sick. It's just,
It is.
it's
It's a
so,
cool song.
and to have a one word chorus and it not come off cheesy and not come off corny, because you could be very cheesy with this. And if it's sung the wrong way, you're going to go, okay, that's really stupid. Okay, next. And I don't get that at all. And I believe Powell writes the majority, like they're all writing it together, but she is a primary lyricist.
Yeah.
So I think
You
that's,
know what's interesting too? And it's more obvious to me on Error. I have to listen deeper on this. She sings too. There's songs where she
yes.
has verses. So on this one, I was really trying to listen and be able to figure out. So maybe you'll be able to fill it in for me during the show. Um, and then, of course, as we keep going down the album, to be able to differentiate a bit, because I know she does come in a few times, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. And with only just having a week and a few days with this album, I'm still picking up little things. I think
Oh
because
yeah,
we had seen so much stuff from Error to see live footage and go, oh, that's Pal singing, or,
yes,
Allie would have a little vocal line here or there, which I think that's why the fans really gravitate towards her, because early on she was singing whole complete songs. So all three of them were singing, but she's kind of pulled
mm.
herself back to doing just backups and stuff like that. So I'm trying to pull up a track list here. Apologize, man. So usually on the show at some point, I end up saying, hands down, this is my favorite song. This this is really good. And this was the first song, like coming off of 6 Feet and then Sick, kind of like a setting the tempo. And what I really love about them is that once you think you know where the band is going, they'll kind of take a little bit of a turn, not going off road, but giving you something in a different way. And the structure of the song was completely backwards from, and I mean that in a good way. The delivery of this song is different than the first two songs, which is what I think makes this whole album so good. Apologize is darn near flawless. The lyrics are like, just listening to
Yes,
the song and then going back and reading the lyrics, I would go, I want to know what happened to her. What happened
yeah, man.
in this that she is cheesed off and justified. You can hear it in Danny's voice, and I want to say I bet this is a Powell written song.
I would agree with you. This, I'm so glad you say all that, because I think I texted you. I was like, you gotta listen to Apologize, please. This is, I'm just gonna say it. We're early. There's a lot of these songs that I love. I love this whole album. This is my favorite song on the album. I agree with you. It's damn near flawless. And because it's so subversive, like you said, just when the first time I listened to this, I kept thinking I knew where it was going to go. And I didn't. When the acoustic guitar kicks in right before the chorus, that I don't mean to make, and her voice is so soft, but it also feels, feels so angry, right? Like
it's broken.
Angry and broken, and then when Apologize kicks in and those drums, this live, I hope to dear heavens they play this live, because this song is going to be dope live. Like you said, the lyrics are really hard hitting. They're really visceral, to where you feel a lot of what she is singing about. I do think it shines through, and I think the song is just epic. I think the song is just epic. So you're right when you say it's damn near flawless. I co-sign that 100%. If there was one song, I hope, if you're listening to the show and you say, okay, I'm going to throw a few of these songs on, I hope that this is one you choose to do. If you're not going to do the whole album, please pick this as one of the ones you listen to.
I think this reminds me in the way that Choke got me, where I went, damn, okay, I have to reevaluate what I thought this band was going to be. And that song just held on. It still has a grip on me, where, and I don't want to try and sound, I'm not trying to make a qualifier by saying this, going, what is a female lead singer going to sing to me that I, as a guy, can relate with, that I could play some other stuff for my wife and she can go, oh, I've had a relationship that's been that way. And I think The Warning does such a good job of just talking about relationships for anyone. Doesn't matter who you are, what you like, what you love, that we've all been down these roads before. We've all felt that. And it was really refreshing just to sit back and go, okay, clearly you're not talking to me. I'm only listening to it because you're a good drummer, you're a good bass player. And I'm just going to let the lyrics go elsewhere, that I'm captivated. And just sitting here before we were recording, I'm just reading through the lyrics of the album and I'm just going, daggone. I have felt that before. I understand that.
Amen. And what I like too, I love that you brought up Choke, because that's a song that's among my favorites overall from them. And it's something that you recommended. And once again, I mean, this is a compliment, not that it's derivative. It has a very similar feel to Choke. Each of those songs start in a very similar way, kind of quiet and in pain, it feels like, and then the song just keeps going. And when it hits, when the song is ready to show you its cards, right, for the choruses, and all three of them are just going at 100%. The songs are so epic, and there's something about them that, like you said, is really captivating. There's a reason Choke holds onto you, right? It has you in a chokehold, and there's a song like Apologize, it grips you too. And this is the song I keep coming back to on the album. I've been listening to the whole album on repeat, but Apologize is the one that definitely has gotten the number one priority in terms of how much I'm replaying it.
Now, I feel bad for not being able to speak Spanish. I
know. I feel like we're doing them a disservice. I feel so bad.
Right. Sorry. Track 4. I really enjoyed the music video. So I feel like I need to use Google Translate to take a picture of the lyrics, or, put it into a Google Doc and have it translate so I can really fully understand it. I meant to do that before the podcast, so I can't talk intelligently about it, but the video is fun. And that's the other thing. They're just not doing videos. Okay, we're going to play on stage and do it. Like, they're doing like full production type things where all three of these girls are killers. And I'm going, that's kind of badass. It's kind of
tight. Yeah,
it's very tight. it's kind of like it's a who done it. It's a bride and two other almost like assassins. Like I almost feel like it's a throw mama from the train. You get my guy, I'll get your guy, and you get your guy. This one guy is screwing us over for whatever reason is the thought I'm getting from the video. But just the playing aspect of it is just great. And the biggest compliment is to not understand what is being said, but it is still drawing me in because I can hear that emotion that Danny is singing through, and it just works. And I think this is one of those where I can hear Powell in a couple different spots in it as well.
Yeah, this one is where it's like the most obvious, right? I'm glad you brought up the video for the song because it was so cinematic, right? And
Mhm.
as like the film guy I am, it felt like this indie horror film, and it was
Right.
about the journey because they don't quite show you at the end, what the whole thing was, and I love that decision. Um, Listen, like you said, I don't know what they're singing about specifically, do Google Translate. And with the risk of sounding ignorant, what I want to try to convey, like you said, is, and you alluded to this earlier, the biggest compliment I could give this song is I have listened to this song so many times. I don't know what they're saying. And I almost love that because you just get to listen to raw vocal and
Mhm.
just all the instruments and just be fully immersed. And to be able to, I'm not going to try to sing it. I think you'll know what I mean with what I'm about to say. A lot of
Yeah.
big music people do. You know how you'll be walking around the house and you'll sing or hum the chorus of a song or something or the
Mhm.
part of a song. I find myself doing it with this song because it
Mhm.
does feel catchy. The na 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 na, and then when it
Yeah.
keeps going na 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 na, and I love how her voice it like extends and then it cuts in that moment at the end. I love it. I love it. So I don't know.
I
Sounds
almost
ignorant,
don't.
I know, but I mean it as a compliment. And I know what you're about to say that
I
you
almost
almost
don't
don't.
want to. I almost don't
There
want to
you
know what
go.
it's about.
Yes. I
It,
almost don't want either. I want to stay in this world of just being fully immersed
I rem.
with the artistry, right? And I
Yes.
know
Yes.
lyrics are artistry too, a million percent.
Right.
They're arguably the most important parts of the song. But then there's songs like this where I'm able to just fully be lost in just the music. And my brain isn't going anywhere else in terms of, oh, I felt that, or what are they saying here? Or maybe they're drawing parallel to this. I'm literally just enjoying the musicianship.
Hmm.
And I think I'm hearing what they hear.
Something my mom used to say when MTV was starting to come around and she would see me watching videos. She goes, isn't MTV ruining the song for you? She goes, whether what you're seeing on screen, like some videos would have nothing to do with what the song is about. She's
Oh,
like,
I love this
and
point.
and now that image of what you saw is in your head and you're not getting to make up your own story for the characters in the song. So I had that mindset with this song of like I literally don't know what they're singing. So I'm just like you taking that emotion from what she's conveying through the microphone and where the music is taking you cinematically. I can almost jettison the music video from my mind because when I'm driving around in the car driving down the road, I, I could be on a heist and somebody's chasing me.
Yeah. Oh, I love
It
that.
could be as simple as that. So this is one of those. It's really refreshing to hear a song and just go. I can just get lost in it because I feel like that may be the point for the American audience, and that they didn't shy away from that. Going, okay, this is a big album for us. We're not going to put any Spanish, you know, sung songs on the album. It's right at the top part of the album. This is what track five. Four.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Four.
four. Excuse me, track four. So yeah, so that's about all I can intelligently say about that. Other than this has a high repeat value
Oh,
for me.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um, more the image that sticks with me is that MTV performance
Yeah.
where they do evolve and then they pull this one out. Um, Danny, like all three of their vocals, when the whole "I know you want it" and it drops back down,
Oh,
I'm like
man.
that
That's
whole
so
arc
good.
and descending of vocals just pulls you in. And I'm a sucker for a good cowbell in a song. And
Yes.
and the way that she attacks and plays a drum, she has this groove as she plays that you can physically watch how just beat the tar out of these drums. Like I would love to see like rehearsal footage of all of them just slowly over time becoming the musicians that you are. That MTV performance of this song is still my favorite version of this song. I love it on the album, but that live performance, hearing a song that I hadn't heard before, was just absolutely brilliant. And they were on fire for that performance. Unbelievable.
Each of those performances, they are that I see a lot of people, because they're in my algorithms now. There's a lot of YouTube channels reacting to those two performances. They're
Yes.
like music, fans, or they review videos and they review live performances. And I've seen a lot of people, and I've watched about 4 or 5, and to each of these two songs, and everyone is blown away every single time. And I hope we need more of that. We need more of that. Let's keep it going. Which is fitting because that's the song title. My mind goes to the MTV performance too. I feel like when this and Evolve now, anytime I listen to those two songs ever, I'm going to be seeing this, and that's a good thing. I like the harmony in this part, the keep me what's it keep me here, some, or in the clear, like just that part is so good. And then here's a compliment I'll give the entire album, and I'm not bearing the lead on something else, is I feel like, so I really like this song, but I feel like they have, in every single song on this album, there is not a song that has a weak everything. And what I mean by that is like every single song on this album at least has one aspect, whether it's a verse, a chorus, riff, or something that hits so hard. And this one I think is an example of, I didn't necessarily love the verse the first time I heard it, and then they do the harmony thing, and then once that chorus kicks in, I'm like, oh my god, it's so good. You know what I mean? Like, and then it makes the rest so much better.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the performance of it, which was a long-winded way of me saying I heard the song and I liked it, and then I liked it more. And then when I saw the performance from it, it all clicked more when you see all the layers to it. A lot of their songs have so many different layers. They never sound too the same. The second verse usually has a little bit of a different flavor, right? And the instruments are being played a little bit of a different way, or vocally it's changing. So that's another compliment where it's like, you gotta listen to every single one of these tracks because the journey they put you on is so worth it.
And it's
pretty much every single time.
I was the same way with this. It's interesting. Like once you get to that chorus you're talking about, and it makes everything else so good, going back and replaying it, now that first verse feels even better the second time, because you know what's coming. I was the same way with the first verse. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. They hit that first chorus. By the time the second verse comes around, now they've flipped Ali and Danny in their and their delivery of it. That makes me go, oh, that was a nice twist on the instrumentation there. So yeah, I dig it.
Good stuff, man.
Track 6, Escapism. If I said that correctly, yes. This was one where I don't want to say the bottom drops out, but there's a definite tonal shift in the album where we're going to do something a little more lighter, because all the songs have been up tempo, and I like that about them, that they can go into like ballad territory when they want to, and it doesn't come off of cheesy. And even that, there's still a lot of energy and a lot of power in the song. I love the lyrics of this. Again, I just, it's very relatable in a way that I didn't think it was going to be, and I really dug it. What are your thoughts on this one?
So this is when I talk about just lyrics. If you made me sit here and just analyze and talk about just the 12 sets of lyrics, lyrically, this is in the group of my favorites on this album because there is something I think that I personally relate to, not to get too deep on the show here, but I think the idea of finding escapism in a lot of stuff, I think, is something I very much relate to. And I do think over the last few years in this, I'll just say this country, but it could easily tie to the world. I think we do look for escapism a lot. The line that silence is to avoid, like when I first heard that line and I was listening to this first time, I was like, oh my God, because a lot of times there's silence in moments and it is a choice. It's a choice to not say something. It's a choice to not speak up. It's a choice to not do something, right? And to hear the line silence is to avoid, like it's a willingness, like it's a direct decision to be silent and quiet and in your own kind of world was like really hard hitting. And just the idea of, when in doubt, right? You close your eyes and that's when it all fades. If you can't see it, right, it's not there for you, right? But then when you open your eyes again, it's there. So I think there's a lot I relate to in this song. That's why I really appreciate this song lyrically a lot.
Yeah. And I like it's not necessarily said in the song, but I can read into you could escape your problems for so long. You can leave, you can run, you can close your eyes and it's not there. But have you ever really escaped what's going on? That I think the song also takes that meaning at times too. Like, yeah, you can choose not to say anything, but it's not really making the problem go away.
No, and very cool chorus too. And I like when the chorus ends, there's this vocal thing going on, this just kind of like keep it with you for a bit. I really enjoy that. That's gonna sound heavenly when you listen to this podcast. What I just did there. And I do not mean to disrespect to three incredible vocalists that they are. I'm trying. When they make something so good like that, I can't sing well. So when I try to imitate it on the show, it's always out of respect. But that did not do it justice. Listen to the song. That will do it justice.
I'll fix it in post.
Yes, please have it like I'll go to talk and have it be theirs, and we can be like, oh wow, that was pretty on the money, Nikko, huh?
I don't know how to say this. Satisfied. I'm not satisfied with this album. I'm over the moon with it, but I can say I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied that I went out and I spent the money and I bought the thing. And I'm try to be cliche. I'm very satisfied with this track. I really like this song. This was one that, because I knew some of the other songs were coming up in the back half of the album, this was one. There's always a song on an album where I'm like, it's good, but I want to get to the next couple songs because I like those so much. But making myself play through it, I'm going, that was actually a really good tune. I don't know if it sticks with me as much as some of the other tracks do, but I really do enjoy this one. What do you think about Satisfied?
So this one, I'm in a similar boat with you. I really like the first verse. Once again, the voice, and I'm gonna do it wrong, but it's the I will obey, I will be that was like really sonically attractive to me. Like I was like, okay, I like how they're starting with the verse. And I do really like the chorus too. I do like the lyrical content. But I will say, this is a song I really, really dig. I really, really dig. What you were alluding to about there's always that one song I actually feel like is the next track for me, but we'll get to that. But this one, is really good for me too. And I think this is a song that the more like on first listen through of the album, I was like, oh wow, I really like how the verses are. When I get to the chorus, I'm like, okay. And then man, the more and more listen throughs when that chorus comes in, it feels better and better to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling you, you're gonna make us do something at the end of the show that I don't know if I can do.
I don't know if I can either.
So that'll be fun though. That'll be fun when we get to that because it's like you can't choose which child or family member you love the most, right?
Right. But you do have to save
So
9 of them from a fire.
you do, yeah, you do in this case on Right Between the Eyes. There's no exceptions. 9 of them must be saved.
Burnout. Now, as I was getting, clearing the clutter from the video, I had a whole bunch of stuff that I was working on back here that I was playing through the album, and I thought I'm gonna go see how many live tracks that they've been playing so far. And Burnout was one that I was watching right as you sent the link for this. And I was kind of with you too, the same thing you were alluding that this is kind of like a second one where I liked the song. I liked the lyrics and all that stuff, but hearing it played live, hearing what Danny said, like, we're going to record these songs and we want to make sure we can play them live. I like it better live than I do on the album. Still a really good song, but live has a little bit more teeth and a little bit more of that warning thing that I really go, oh, that this is something I wish they kind of would have honed that a little bit more for the album. I think there's a little bit more processing and some other organic sounds kind of getting thrown in, and live they don't have as much of that. It's more raw, if that makes sense at all.
No, I think that's a really good point. For me, this track, it was I didn't they I might be wrong. Didn't this one come out too before the album came out?
It might have. I was just
But if it did, it was only like a week.
yeah.
If it did, it was only a week. If you could maybe fact check that real fast. I think the drums are sick on this one. But I agree with you. This is the only one.
Yes,
This
it
is
did.
the only. Okay, it did.
This is three weeks ago. This was the last song before the album dropped that they released.
So okay, I still think it's a very good song, but I'm with you. I think it's the song where it's the most obvious, where there's a little bit extra there. It's so cool how we're on the same page for almost this whole album. I freaking love this. It does feel like there's a little bit more producer stuff.
A little more production,
yeah, a little more production on it, right? And I think it works to an extent, but like you said, a lot of my favorite songs of theirs, a lot of what we've been talking about today, just when you feel the rawness of it all. And this one feels like they played around with it a little bit, and it shows. Not a bad song, but I would say like this is a song I would have when we inevitably rank them. I'm not trying to bury the lead, but this will be maybe one you see. Maybe I haven't revealed my cards yet. You people don't know. You don't know what I'm going to do yet. This might be one that gets left off. And it's like, I also mean it in a positive way. This is going to be so hard to trim the 9. So these are going to be trims that really hurt. It's not like, what's that song that you and my dad like that I don't like? It was on a Kiss album. Is it there? Oh, it was one of the, is it, there's something that happens at night. I still think that's a bit between you two, man. I still think that's a bit. It's not going to be as easy for me as that one. Or like, if my dad was here, he would be throwing "Say Yeah" out the door so hard.
He would say no to say yeah.
Say no to say yeah.
Sharks. What a fun friggin' song.
Thank you. Same thing, dude. Yes.
As much as there's always that song on an album, like we were talking about this other album I'm going to put up here that I just picked up, little JBJ, where you were reading off the song titles and you were like, there's no way that song is any good. Walls of
Is
Jericho.
It good? It's probably good, right?
It's good. And I felt this. I read the title for Sharks and I was like, what? I love these girls, but what are you going to sing about sharks? And I was like, oh, I know some sharks. What a brilliant lyrically written song. And I take back every negative thing that I thought about the title. When it popped up on my car, I was like, sharks. Like, okay, there's always got to be one clunker on the album. This has got to be the clunker. Nope, there is no clunk here. I love this song. This is so good.
This is for me an all-timer episode because how and it would be okay if we weren't, but we are so in sync
And
here.
we like your dad would say,
we did not talk
did not
about
talk.
this. You said some technical things that I'm just gonna I don't want to try to repeat any of it again. This song is so effing cool.
Yes.
And I had a similar, I'm trying not to swear on the show. I had a similar freaking journey because when I played this, I saw the name, and you know me, I've brought this up before. Sometimes a song name, like you just said, The Walls of Jericho, there's no way I got to this song. I'm like, okay, I bet this is the first one that I'm like, it starts and the drums and the verse, there's something looking in the water, got a little something a little faster. And I'm like, okay. I like what's funny is we just kind of critiqued the last song for having a bit of production, but when the other ones come in and are like, don't bleed, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little chills, right? A little nervous. Yeah. And the chorus is so hard, dude. You know what's funny? This is a song. This will be, and I don't know if you know how we've talked about songs in the past. Why haven't they ever played this live?
I feel like this is going to be that song that they're not.
This is going to be that song. Dude, we're the same. I love you, brother. This is the same thing. I said, I bet, unfortunately, this will be the song that the fans are like dying to see, like how we would kill to see I Stole Your Love, right?
Right.
Or how I know, like, for JBJ fans, people love a lot of songs off the album these days. So they would kill for a Hey God.
Right.
They would kill for a These Days, you know. They would kill for a while it was Raise Your Hands, and then they started playing it, right? I have such a worry, but I also feel like it's a compliment. Right.
Yes.
That like they won't play this live, and we're gonna be sitting there going like, Sharks should be in the set list somewhere, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. This song is so, and it sounds like it's gonna be a cheesy song. Even when the song starts, you're like, okay, they're talking about people being sharks, you know, there's something lurking in the water, and the song ends. I'm like, yo, but I feel them so hard, dude.
I know. But I think songs like that, songs that we really gravitate towards, or songs that fans really like, are the ones that don't get played. Where you're like, oh, you say you like The Warning. Have you listened to Sharks? No,
yeah, do you know Sharks?
I like Choke, and I like this, and I like, you know, Z or whatever. And you go, you don't know this band, you know, or whatever that band is. I feel like, and that makes that even better. I think sometimes that you're just like waiting for that YouTube reaction moment at a concert where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they
Sharks.
It's been 30 years and we've been dying to hear the song, where you want to hear it, but I think secretly you're like, no, because once everybody else hears it, it ceases to become this inner circle gang of people that really like this.
That's brilliantly said. You're right. Like once they start, you know, playing it and everybody has it, it's like, oh no, it's not ours anymore. It's not like the true fans anymore. But I'm just gonna say this is one. Hopefully, when they go on their headlining tour and they're done playing the festivals and stuff, and they could have a 17, 18 song set list, right? Maybe even more, but that like 90-minute at least thing where you push about 17 or 18. They got a lot of songs. I just hope this is on there. If not, you will have heard Rob and I say it first. This will be the song that in 2 years, when Rob and I are talking about The Warning, we're going, why don't they play Sharks?
Right.
Why don't they play it live?
And you start getting into the I Stole Your Love. Like, I'm not even going to the show anymore.
I can't even watch them. I was going to get a shark tattoo, but not anymore.
Not anymore. Hell You Call a Dream. I know I said apologize. If I'm being honest, I am still floored by this song. I was over the moon when I first heard the kind of crappy YouTube, because they had done it towards the very tail end of their run when they got back to South America to finish up the air. I keep want to say almost Taylor Swift, the eras,
The Eras tour, the Error tour.
the error tour. They pulled this out and Sick, and I think it was one more. But this, then when they released like the Pro Shot live version of this, Ali's bass on this, oh my gosh. It just, and we haven't talked
Bass.
about their playing. The bass, her
Oh,
bass
yeah.
playing is so good on this whole entire album. But she sounds like a beast on this track. As much as I love Apologize, this is my favorite track. And I was glad that they released this as an official single. I'm sad that it's in the lower part of the album, but this album is so good. It's easy to get to this and not go, I got bored by song 6. So you miss a shark. So you miss this song.
This is, until I heard Apologize, this was my favorite song on the album. When I just had the 5 or 6, there's something, I also have some nostalgia for it, similar to you. This was the first song you said to listen to. This is the first song of theirs I listened to, and that has never changed. The instruments are on fire from Ali in the verse. It's going with Danny's voice. It was the first time I heard her voice. I thought it was great. The drum fills as the chorus finishes. I keep trying every you know, as the drummer what I mean. People listening are going to be like, what the hell is he talking about? So you're going to have to listen to it before so that you know what I'm saying, or Rob will give you the drum terms. But this is my second favorite song on the album. I'm going to need this live. Like I'm going to need an audio version of it. Like I hope they release something live with a few of these songs. I think this song is so cool. I'm with you. I'm torn because I think this song, if we're going to be like album Nazis, right? And we're going to say, okay, we're also really grading the structure and the order, right? Which I'm not going to say I'm a pro at, right? But it's just like a feel thing, right? Like, oh, this song, we said it at the beginning, this song feels like could have been first, could have been second, even could have been third, right? Ironically, Sick is a song I feel like that could have came later. So
same.
It's crazy because I'm praising and I'm not critiquing in a negative way because, like you said, the album is so good. But there's something about the song where I'm like, why is this track 10? But then I'm going to be a hypocrite and directly contradict myself. This, and I mean, I guess there's only 2 songs, so like it would just leave people to guess. This and another song that is in the next 2, I think I'm actually glad that they kept on an album of so many good songs. I like how the strongest ones are all kind of spread out. So it makes that entire journey of the album, if you're going to listen to it start to finish, like so worth it.
Yeah. And I think so many times we've heard albums where all the good stuff is in the front half of the album and the back half kind of gets there. There's not that thing to really sink your teeth into going, okay, well, this song's good, but all these next 2 are fantastic. And it keeps you on that flow. So like you said, I'm being a hypocrite on both sides. It should have been higher in the mix, but I like that it's here because I think it's balancing. It makes me want to consume more of this album. This was one that was another one I didn't give it its fair shake because I think as I was listening to it, I was distracted by doing other stuff. I was getting close to my destination. I was getting home, getting groceries out. So I was kind of sort of listening to it. I was mowing the yard, kind of sort of listening to it because I was dealing with tree limbs and other stuff. It wasn't till like sitting down and listening to it, I went, man, I wasn't really giving this song with the time of day. So it's been the least played for me, but that does not make it any lesser of a song. I really dig it, and I'm kind of kicking myself that I wasn't paying more attention when I was first listening to this rather than getting distracted by other things.
Yeah, there's I really like this song. I do not think there is a song on this album that I would even consider okay. I think they're all
Yes.
good to great to exceptional rock and roll songs. This is a similar one where it's the song I've played the least.
Mhm.
And I've went back to the least. And I think there's something about it I would like. There's still a lot of it to appreciate. Their musicianship shows on every single song that is undeniable. At that point, then it comes down to like lyrics, structure, chorus, riffs. Like, okay, what are the things now that really like are standing out? And this is a song where I look to continue exploring it, but this is also in the camp of my lesser favorite on the album, but that in no way, shape, or form am I telling you this is not a good song. It's just one of those on an album of 12 stellar rock songs. There's going to be some you are drawn to more than others, and that this is one I'm just not consuming as much.
Yeah. And I think because it's flanked by the songs that it is,
That's the other thing.
had Hell You Call a Dream and Automatic Sun not been there, I think because those two songs are so good that this one kind of gets lost in the weeds, and that's not trying to kick it off of the island because it stinks. It's just the other two are so good. So Automatic Sun, seeing the live performance of this one, I was just like, holy, like we say a lot of times on the show, like, especially your dad saying just the nine being our shtick. Give me 9 really good songs and don't give me a lot of fluff in between. Like, okay, we'll give you 10. You start getting into 11, 12, 13 songs on an album. You get into Bon Jovi bounce territory. While it's such a good album, there's a lot of there's dead weight on that album where you go, boy, you really could have tied this up in 10 songs and you would have had a fantastic album. I don't feel that way. I don't feel fatigue getting to the end of this album because the beginning song and the end song are so good. It just makes me want to let that repeat and go right back to song 1 and complete the journey. And I love that Automatic Sun closes the album where the Error album closes on a melancholy album, a melancholy song, which is
I'm glad you brought that up.
so good, but they don't do that on this album. So everything that they succeeded on the first album, they doubled down and took a gamble on some songs and did something different that is still very much them. That they start and end the album with the rocker is a brilliant choice, and I can't sing the praises of this song enough. This is so good and a well-crafted lyrical song, and it's just fun just to crank up.
I'm glad you brought up it alludes to something that you just talked about. How many reviews have we done now of albums, which is a pretty large amount, I would say so, where we talk about either the second half not having as much kick or the ending song. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You bring up the way that Error ends is pretty brilliant, especially when you listen to that whole album start to finish. To end with this song, to start and finish the way they do, this is, I would also say, in my top 3 or 4 of this album, and it's the closing track. And they said, okay, we're going to hit you in the face first and we're going to hit you in the face at the end, right? And I think that is, you brought up a good point. I think that is why Consume gets lost, because How You Call a Dream is my second favorite and Automatic Sun is right up there too. So it's like, okay, well, How You Call a Dream ends and I'm looking to get to Automatic Sun. The lyrics, this one is more, I almost love how lyrically this one is a little bit more simple, but when you think about what they're saying, like this individual they're talking about is giving them this automatic sun, this automatic fire, this heat, this energy, this attraction. I'm like, oh, that's a cool when you think about it. I'm like, oh, because the first couple of times I listened to this, I'm like, okay, what an automatic sun? Oh, like, there's so many, I don't want to be ignorant and call them cheat, but how many quotes are like someone's heart was like the sun, the white hot sun, right? And for them to be like, wow, when I'm with you, it's Automatic Sun. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Instantaneous.
that's kind of
Yeah.
instantaneous sun, instantaneous fire, chemistry, heat, etc. And I feel like I also think too, I like to, this might sound weird. I don't know. I tie a lot of how I engage with music or film or TV. I find I always look for relatability in my life, but other people in my life.
Yes.
And there are certain people who I feel like in a different way who walk in a room and they're just so captivating and they got the energy. So I feel like I know some people who I would say have automatic sun or can
Mhm.
generate automatic sun. So I think there's something about this song where I go, oh, you brought up earlier, like, okay, how many of these songs do you feel like they're going to be talking about things that are universal, that are
Mhm.
you're able to relate to? And I think they do a great job of that on this whole damn record
Oh,
and on their
yes.
previous work too. They write in a way that is very humanistic. But yeah, I've definitely had people in my life, including, I'm very happy to say, with my current partner. I feel like there's automatic sun, right? And
Mhm.
and I mean, you in your case as well have been in this lovely relationship for a long time. And then when right? Like I'm trying to get to where you are, right? And to where
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to my dad and mom as well, right? And just
Yeah.
like and stories they've told. And I feel like that idea of automatic sun is so cool. And I feel like them as a group, right? To get really meta with it, the first live performance I watched of them was like Automatic Sun. That Evolve MTV performance was like
Yeah.
Automatic Sun. And I'll tell you what, they played Sick on Kimmel. Was the one that got televised, but you always play two songs when you're there. This
Yeah.
was the second
The
track they
second one.
played.
As
I
much as
almost
Sick
wish
was
they aired.
flipped it.
Yep.
Yes.
I almost wish they aired this instead, but I get like Sick is the song they've had out for the longest time now on this record. So I guess that's why they decided to pump it. Like, oh, it still has some, but I would have picked this or Hell You Call a Dream. But very cool performance as well. I think they gave that Kimmel audience
They
something they
gave
won't
them
forget.
fire on that performance.
Fire, Automatic Sun, maybe.
Yeah. And I just to button up what you said, that idea of being in, I'm going to try to turn this into a spacey type of thing, being caught in somebody else's orbit that is so contagious that you don't want that person to leave, because
Yeah.
they're elevating you, their sun, their fire, whatever the analogy might be, is when they leave, your level comes down. Like I long for the time in a relationship where we don't have to be apart because we're on that same level. That's what I got from this. That's what I got from the whole album and just the band in general, of going, my gosh, I'm glad I organically discovered them how I did. And I could have very
Yes.
easily not and just been like, I don't know. I don't need to hear some insert cliche here band. What are they possibly going to do? That I went from, oh, this is a guilty pleasure, to telling my best friend, like, you got to check out The Warning. He's like, yeah, I'll get
Heck yeah,
around
man.
to it. I'm like, no, seriously, you're going to do yourself a disservice, not, and you're going to come back 6 months from now and go, oh man, I just discovered The Warning. I'm like, yeah, you've missed out on a year and a half that's been well worth it. When taking a little break from Kiss, going, I, I'm pumped to start talking about our boys, because these other things I've been listening to, and this has been high on
It's
my
it's
list.
it's been high. I'm really glad to hear you say that. And thank you for the recommendation, because like it's the greatest thing in the world when a recommendation delivers, right? Rick
Yes.
said Rick Shoes, shout out to Rick, phenomenal dude, was on the show. He's no, this is a different. I just combined two podcasts. But shout out to Rick anyway. I was on a
Yeah.
different podcast. Sometimes we all do different ones outside of the
Mhm.
music space. There was someone else who said they got to a point at in their life where people have too many expectations nowadays. So he doesn't
Mhm.
like recommending stuff. He no longer says like, "Oh, you have to watch this. It's great." He'll just be like, "Yeah, I saw that. You should check it out." But man, when recommendations hit, so when you were like, check out this band, I'm someone who still likes to tell people what I like. I want them to like what I like, right? So when
Same.
you were like, it's been a plus recommendation, and also it's cool when your friends are giving you something,
Yeah.
and when you're sharing it together. So it's like
And that's a big matzo ball sometimes to recommend something to somebody, and when they hear it and they're like, yeah, it just didn't work for me, or they start picking it apart, all of a sudden it's like, well, now I feel weird for liking it because my bro didn't like it. And then you're like, well, yeah, I don't know. So it was one of those that I'm going to use a big word here. I ruminated on it for
heck
a
yeah.
minute of like, do I tell you, is this going to be in your wheelhouse? And I was just like, you know what? This is really good. If he likes it, he likes it. If he doesn't, he doesn't, but I was the same way, like the person you were talking about. I'm very cautious of what I recommend that I'm like, I don't know. So
Glad that wasn't us.
yeah. Well, let's have some hard fun here. So,
Oh,
what we
it's
like
gonna
to
be
do on the
brutal.
show, every
That's gonna be
album
brutal.
that we listen to and review, we try and boil it down to the bare essentials of those classic rock albums from the days of yore. And when albums had 9 or 10 tracks on it. So I always like looking at a 10 list if it's the first time you're listening to us, if you're a Warning fan and go, I don't know who these Kiss guys are. You get an album that's 10, like all these songs are really good. But to really make it hard, everybody does a 10 list. Let's take one away that really makes you boil it down to like, these are as Gene would say in an interview, the creme de la creme. These are the ones that are rising to the top. So we like to do a yay or nay with these. So I've got
Yeah, let's do it. It's only two voices today,
only
but
two
let's do
voices.
it. So the nine.
Welcome to the 9. You may only choose 9 songs to move forward. No more, no less. The 9 is here.
So we've got 12 songs, so that means we're going to jettison 3 songs. And this is going to be rough. I've got one where we've already talked about it that I'll let go, but this will be interesting. So let's start with, we're just going to go 1 through 12, and we'll see what the 9 are remaining. We'll see if you and I are both on the same page here. This will be interesting. Number 1, 6 Feet Deep, yay or nay?
I'm yay.
I'm yay. I'm definitely yay.
Heck yeah.
Sick, yay.
I am also yay.
Apologize. I'm going to quote your dad, to the yayest of yays.
To the yayest of yay for apologize. Yes.
And I don't want to butcher the title of 4, but the Spanish language.
I've just been saying QMQ. That's what I've been saying. QMQ.
QMQ. Yay.
I'm yay as well for all the reasons we said. I think it would have been easy for this to be nay, right? It would be easy to skip this song, right? If we're going off of traditional cultural ignorance, and yet the song rips. So no, it's yay. It's staying.
It's yay. 5 more. Yay.
I am yay too.
6, Escapism.
Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Give me a sec because
I'm gonna say yay. I gotta say yay.
So here's what's hard. Can I tell you where I'm at?
Yes.
I'm saying this right now. Either this or Satisfied will unfortunately, one of these two will unfortunately suffer the fate of the nay.
Yeah.
My difficulty is lyrically, I'm gonna be transparent. Transparent is the word I want. I'm gonna be transparent with the audience here. I forgot about a line in Satisfied. It ends the chorus. It says, I don't care is such an easy lie. I love that line because something I always have said, and I say this, not to get in my career too much, but I say this in my career a lot because I deal with people's feelings. A lot of times when people say, I don't care, it is a defense mechanism. It is a lie. It is a way of ignoring. But that also plays into escapism.
Yeah.
So these songs almost feel
connected somehow.
They're about a few different things, but there's a lot. These two, I think that's why when it came to Satisfied, I had a little bit less to say, because this and Escapism, I will say every listen. There's always a couple, there's sometimes on an album, there's a couple of songs that happen right after each other and they almost feel blended. I'm going to say just for the sake of no, because the Close My Eyes Until It Fades is so good. You know what?
I'm gonna change my answer because I had forgotten about what we were talking about, Escapism. I'm gonna go back to a yay on this.
I think because the lyrics hit so hard, I'm gonna say yay for Escapism too.
Yeah, the lyrics are what had me on this.
They get me. Even though I love I love Danny's voice at the beginning of Satisfied.
Yeah, which
But
I feel like we're painting ourselves into a corner. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs left, and we have not said nay. I mean, I know I did. I pulled back, but we got some tough choices coming up.
yeah.
Satisfied. I think I'm going to give this one a nay.
So
I like
I'm
it.
gonna have to go nay. I'm gonna have to go nay because I think Escapism grows for me as a listener, and I think Satisfied, I like it when it starts, and I think it stays.
Mm-hmm.
I think my feelings on the song, my perception of the song, it starts at a nice high level and stays there. Escapism kind of keeps building, and the lyrics hit just a little bit more harder. So I'm going to say nay to Satisfied. So both of our first nay is happening right now.
Yes.
I'm curious if we have the same.
Yeah. So Burnout.
I think we do.
Track 8. I'm also going to give this a nay.
I'm a nay too.
I again, it's picking the lesser of 12 evils.
Yes.
Here. And not even evils. But it's just one of those. I think these two songs, like you said, it holds a line here, and they're all great songs, but I don't feel that emotional thing yet. Now, who knows? A week from now, I may be like, oh my gosh, Burnout.
Yeah, it might change.
Yeah. So are you a nay on Burnout as well?
I'm a nay on Burnout too. I'm a nay on Burnout.
All I know is there's sharks in the water, and I'm going to say, yeah, there's sharks in the water. So yay.
Yay, there are sharks in the water, to the yayest of yays for sharks.
Yeah. Hell You Call a Dream. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, forever.
All right. I think I know what's going to happen. I can only consume so much, but I don't know. Like I said earlier, this is a really good song, but it's flanked by 2 great songs. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to nay consume.
I got a nay consume too. Wow. And then automatic sun. Yay of yay, baby. Yay for Rob. Yay for me. So is this the first time? I know there's only 2 of us, but is this the first time that the 9 have been the same?
And I think as you were talking about Escapism, I was thinking about Satisfied being Escapism, and I'm like, oh no, the lyrics that I'm really holding on to. So I think I was, but yeah, I don't think we've been this close, or I don't think we've been the same on.
Well, that's freaking cool.
That's awesome.
That it's this album where we're deadlocked. I love that. Yeah, it hurt to let those go. It hurt to let those 3 go. It did.
Yep.
But I do think, I mean, yeah, these are the 9. Like you said, if we really had to, and we're not going to do this, but if we really had to rank them, both of our 9s are the quote unquote top 9. And I think both of the groups of nays, I think those are the bottom 3. I would say if we really had to rank them 1 to 12, I think those are 10, 11, 12.
I think so.
Let's just play this fun game. Of those 3, rank the 3 nays. We've never done this. Rank the 3 nays.
The 3 nays.
Yeah.
So we'll do the best to
yes.
I'm probably going to go in the order that they're on the album. Satisfied, Burnout, and Consume. That's
It's
probably my
so
three.
funny. I'm the same way, dude.
Really?
Satisfied is definitely first, and then like
Yes.
Consume. I feel like maybe on like maybe I'm just in the moment. Maybe if like I sat down and listened to them both, now I do Consume and then Burnout. But I think I would do Satisfied, Burnout, Consume. I do.
Yeah. This was fun. I
Fun
like this.
album, man. It's a fun album, man.
And I don't remember if we caught this before we hit record, but when Nikko sent me the message like, hey, you know what today is? I had forgot that it was the album release day. And then after a couple days, he was like, so what'd you think? And reading the text message, I'm already assuming like, oh, he didn't like it. The hype was built up for him. So until this show, when we hit record, I didn't know truly how we felt. So this was one of those like, okay, it's one thing to make a recommendation where somebody goes, oh, I like the album that you told me to go out and get. And then I bought the second album and you're like, I don't know that this one, did it exceed the expectations or did it still meet the same expectation that you had?
You know, it's funny. That's a good point. Yes, you know what was interesting about it? We had about 4 or 5 of the songs for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when the album came out, I immediately gravitated to the other 6 or 7 songs, right? I'm like, okay, what are the rest? And I think initially, right, I loved it right away. And it's when you start listening top to bottom and trying to remove the fact that I've listened to Hell You Call a Dream probably 100 times already since the album came out, right? I would say I think it exceeded. I do think it exceeded my expectations because I was expecting, I had an expectation of they release the strongest songs and the next 6 I'm going to like less.
Yeah.
And that wasn't true because at least Apologize and Sharks, at least, right, are so strong. And I'm like, okay, they got the bangers on the songs they didn't put out too. They didn't show all their cards with the and 6 Feet Deep, right? So those are 3 of 6 or 3 of 7 songs right there that I'm like are really strong. Any one of these songs I feel like could have been a single, right? So I think in that way it exceeded my expectation. I also in the last couple months have listened to Error all the way through, which we have to talk about that one day too on the show. And that album I also consider damn near flawless too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, is this where like, oh, did I get into them just an album late, right? Like, did they put out their strongest thing and now I'm picking up? But no, I think this is. I'm so curious now to now that I've listened to this a few times, we talked about it, to go back and do Error start to finish and kind of see, not to compare them in a way where they need to be compared, but just to look at these last two collections of songs by this trio and say, okay, wow, there are 2 albums back to back now that are very strong by them. So is it a consistency things for them, or are they like really evolving, right? I'm curious to kind of play that game in my mind. But it's all quality. So I would say, long-winded answer once again, I would say it did exceed my expectations. How about you? Because you've been with them longer than me. So like, you've really had journeys with some of these songs before the album came out. Did this meet your expectations? Did it exceed? Did it come under? I don't think it came under, so that won't be one.
No. I came in right to the tail end of the album cycle where there was a lull between a new album and where I was just consuming Error over and over and over again, to where I was worried going, I have built this up, that I have discovered this band that I felt like nobody else really knows about in my circle when I would talk to people, that I'm like, it's up here. I feel like I'm going to be let down. And it took a minute when Sick was released as a single. I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel like Z. It doesn't feel like Choke. It doesn't feel like this. And the more I started playing it, I'm like, it's something different. It's not being cliche. It's them evolving forward in a good way. And once I heard Hell You Call a Dream, I was like, Yeah.
Yeah,
This is the band that I fell in love
they're
with.
here.
They're here. Yeah.
And I think it's a massive compliment to say, like, if we and this could be a later show too, because I don't want to spoil all my thoughts on Error as well. But when I look at two albums and I could sit here and tell you, wow, I mean, there's let me just stay on keep me fed. I mean, there's about 6 or 7 songs that I'm telling you are like great rock songs, like exceptional. I mean, that's hard to do, I think, today,
Mhm.
right? On any album, it's hard to have 7 or 8 songs that I'm sitting here going, like, I could listen to any single one of these songs anytime and I want to see them all live, right? And I feel that way about Error as well. So I think that's a really pleasant thing, too. I feel like, I'll be honest with you, we haven't talked about him yet on the show, but I'm a big Wolfgang Van Halen fan. I love both of his albums. But I will say his second album, I think there's a couple great songs, but I think the first one is better than the second one. Not that the second one disappointed me, but the second one I didn't have as many times where I went, oh wow, this song, oh wow, this song. And I'm interested to talk about that one day. But still a very good rock album. But this album, I said, well, I go from Error to this, and I said, wow, there is a consistency and even at times leaps here in terms of some of these individual songs that I'm shocked. What I mean, they're probably proud of this as the creators of it, but I would imagine they think this is some of their strongest stuff.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
bet you a lot of the fan base agrees too, because this album was pretty damn awesome.
And you, in a scenario like the whole reason this podcast exists, you've got a Gene and Paul that are out front and they're running it together, even though sometimes Paul is clearly in the driver's seat. Tommy and Eric really had not a lot to do with the day-to-day decisions of Kiss. They're along for
Yeah.
the ride. They're members of the band. That these three sisters are a unit and they watch each other's back. This is their thing together, and each of them have 1/3 creative control of this, and they're each is putting in 100%, that you don't go, well, Al's just a bass player. She's only doing.
Yeah.
Each one of them have their own unique fan base as much as our boys do. If you're an Ace, Peter, Paul, Gene, whatever, you can find your favorite member of this band, and each one of them is delivering 100%. And these two albums back to back show that these girls are. I think
Yeah.
they're gonna rule.
They're gonna absolutely rule, and I hope a larger explosion is coming, because we need to see them.
Yeah,
That's what I'll say. We need to see them, very badly. I'm holding out hope. Let me just see if there's no way this lineup is out yet. There's a music festival in Chicago called Riot Fest, and that's more of like, no, there's already. Okay, I'm not about to do this on air because it'll take up time. So the lineup is out. This would be a place they would be at. It's their vibe, and I don't see them, unfortunately. I was holding out hope. I'm like, oh, maybe they're at Riot Fest, and that's why they don't have a Chicago stop. So unfortunately, darn, that will not be the case. But we got to see him, Rob.
Yeah, definitely.
Something's got to happen. Something's got to happen here.
Well, while we are compiling our next episode I'll just drop a little hit of some of the hottest Kiss songs for an upcoming 9 episode. And there's literally only 9 of them. If there's another song out there, I don't know. I think it'll be a fun episode that we will get back into proper Kiss territory. But these little satellite shows, like Rick used to say on Batman on Film, it's fun doing these little satellite shows to rejuvenate things. But
yeah,
this was a great sidestep. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. If people are unfamiliar with you, from any Warning fans that have come over to check this out,
I was gonna say it would be cool if, like, right before I plug my stuff, I echo everything that you said. Like, our goal, we do this because we love it, right? All we're doing is trying to share our love music with people. It's the same reason I do all the other podcasts I do. We're at a point where it's not about views or money or listens or whatever. It's about doing it. I do truly hope we either get some warning fans listen, or if you're a listener and you've listened to this episode and you listen to them and become a fan of their music, that's enough for me. And please share if you do, comments, Twitter, whatever. And you can do that, obviously, at Right Between the Eyes, at Nico Caruso on Twitter and Instagram, at Nico Knows Film on TikTok, and the Vigilante 1939, where we talk about the You've heard us talk about comic book stuff, and if from the clips you've seen, I have some comic book stuff. We all do. Rob's got the most. Shout out to Rob, but we have all this stuff behind us. So that's, maybe you find that you're into that too and come support us in a different way. But my number one priority, please listen to this album if you have not, and if you are a fan of The Warning, listen to maybe the rest of our shows. Maybe you'll like Kiss. Maybe you're not a Kiss fan and you'll become a Kiss fan. Who knows?
Get a 2-for-1 here.
Twofer.
And you can follow me at drummer Rob 10 on Instagram and Twitter. And Nico's hearing this for the first time. I have been toying with doing a satellite podcast YouTube. I used to have an action figure channel called Rob's Rogues, which I reviewed action figures and different stuff. Taking this like satellite idea and going, what if I did a proper show that was just talking about all the other musical things that I want to do? So there is a YouTube channel that exists that I haven't done anything with yet, but it's called Rogue Record Music, which is, I love that, something that I'm thinking about doing, that in lulls of this podcast are going, hey, I want to talk about Dream Theater. I want to talk about X, Y, or Z, or my parents are moving and my mother found her record collection and some of the first records that I ever bought circa 1980, whatever.
Wow, that's cool. You show those off, man.
They're in the other room. I have a 12-inch of Return of the Jedi that has audio, a spoken audio from the movie in there, and then R2-D2 beeps to tell you to turn the page. So I have a big.
That's sick.
So
you'll show me.
I'll show you that. That's coming soon. I don't know when I'm going to launch it. It'll probably be YouTube only, but keeping under the RBTE podcast network. And then, of course, Right Between the Eyes podcast, the flagship of a soon-to-be podcast network. So
I can't. I love that. I can't wait for that, brother. I can't wait.
And then, of course, your father, Nick Caruso.
Adam Caruso Jr.
Yes.
My fault. Sorry. I could have plugged him too.
And
he'll be back.
He'll be back here on the next episode, and it'll be a proper Kiss episode, and we'll get the Kiss machine fired back up. So on the behalf of Nick, who's not here, Nico, I'm Rob. You've been watching and listening to Right Between the Eyes podcast with 3 generations of Kiss fans telling you why we love Kiss and The Warning, because we love it loud. See you in the next episode. Take care. Peace.